What's going on, guys? Brooks Anderson here, coming at y'all with another video today. I've been out on the water almost every single day for the past few weeks, either guiding or fishing night tournaments. It's been an absolute pleasure to take a ton of people out and really showcase a lot of different baits, areas, and techniques that I'm utilizing right now on Lanier. If y'all are interested in getting out on the water on a trip, definitely check out my website down below. I am booking for August on Lanier and Hartwell. Really enjoy taking people out and just kind of giving them those light bulb moments and explaining the hows and whys of why I choose certain baits and locations for these summer months. Now, there's a lot changing on the lake. The water temperatures are mid 80s and even pushing into those almost 90 degrees on some of those warmer days. So with that being said, you definitely have to adjust your tackle and locations, and all your presentations, everything has to be completely shifted to kind of reach some of those deeper fish as they begin to set up on that thermocline. So if y'all are interested in getting out on a trip, definitely check out my website down below. And if you're not able to make it out on an actual guide trip, you can check out my fish tips link down below. That's a virtual guide service in the sense that it gives you my locations, baits, techniques, everything in full detail. That way, if you can't take off work, only have a couple of days on the weekend, you still want to be dialed on some of the most current and hot bites, that is an awesome platform where you can still get that and not have to sacrifice a whole weekday or something to get out on the water. So without further ado, in today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the locations and baits I will be using for the remainder of July and August out on Lake Lanier. So hopefully y'all enjoy this one. I've got some really cool footage of just some guide trips and some tournament fishing over the past 2 weeks. So y'all stay tuned. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright guys, so in today's video I want to showcase a couple different ideas, baits, and locations that y'all need to have in mind when you do fish this late summer transitional period. We are in, previously the water temps have been 70s, mid 70s, upper 70s. Those fish are really willing to come up on top waters and flukes, which, don't get me wrong, there's still days and conditions that you can absolutely do that right now, but the large majority of these spotted bass are moving extremely deep on some of these main lake humps and long running points. And there's a couple things that really dictate why I pick these locations and some of the baits I will actually use to target these fish in this portion of the summer we're in currently. So when I'm pulling up to a hump or a long running point, the most important thing right now is I'm looking for a hard break on that point or hump. And what I mean by that is I want steep contours on one side of it, or where it comes off and meets the channel and has just an extremely hard break. And what that does for me is allows those fish to be able to pull up on some of those humps and points, feed on the brush piles, timber, whatever you may have on a given location, and then slide back out there to that deeper water. Previously in the summer, you were able to fish a lot shallower points, things of that nature, where these fish are making those transitions out of the creek on some of the shallower brush, humps, things like that. But now we're so far into summer that those fish really need that high bait presence and oxygen levels that deeper water can provide. But it's still awesome to target a lot of the same locations, but you have to be a little more critical when you are picking those humps and points, because if it's too far back or if it doesn't have that access to deep water, there's not going to be a giant school there compared to some of those other locations. So definitely everything right now is main lake oriented for me, and pretty much at the mouths of a lot of these big creeks. And touching on a few of the baits I will be using, like I said, these fish are not always going to be willing to come race up to the top with the thermocline and some other things going down on the lake. If you do have some cloudy days, things like that, early morning, late in the evening, those can definitely still play. Or if they're just actively schooling, definitely keep all those traditional options on the deck. But as far as targeting some of these deeper fish on those piles and timber, I will utilize a couple of different techniques starting now until the end of July and for the entire month of August. So a couple of these baits will be, I love throwing a jig, a drop shot, underspin, demiki, anything that really gets down to these fish and I'm not forcing them to come up 15-20 feet on baits at the surface. And The big key to fishing these baits is trying to get the whole school initiated on the bait. I typically will like to throw past these fish in hopes of getting 5, 10, 15, 20 fish active on my bait, similar to the fluke and the top water. I'm just doing it about 20 or 30 feet deeper and not forcing those fish to come to the top. So definitely making long casts and trying to hit those bigger schools of fish are going to increase your odds incredibly, rather than just trying to pick off some solos or some small wolf packs of fish, which you definitely absolutely can do. But for still targeting those offshore schools, trying to get your bait behind those fish and get it going has been a huge key the past few weeks on guide trips and tournament fishing. It's been an absolute blast out there. So definitely, to recap, a few things to keep in mind: make sure the locations you are choosing have access to deep water, or that steep contours or a break on a point or hump. Don't be scared to try some bottom techniques or a lot of other things similar to an underspin or a jig, or just things that stay down in the water, because these fish are not always going to be racing up to the top as the next couple weeks kind of unfold. But also keep some of those top waters, flukes, bills, all that good traditional stuff on your deck for when you do see the conditions arise. So say you pull up to your brush pile, they're set up a little bit higher. Definitely don't be scared to throw all that stuff you've been throwing. Just kind of understand that it's not going to be as consistent as early in the summer, where pretty much most piles in the lake, they'll come running up the whole month of June to eat your top waters. So definitely a couple key pointers as we move into that August period, where that thermocline really forms and those fish are really going to relate to that oxygen level and pretty much keep them in a very specific zone. So definitely kind of bump up the sensitivity on your graph in the morning, see where that thermocline is starting to form, and kind of shift your approach and your techniques to that section of the water so you can be as effective as possible. Those fish are not going to stray too much on either side of that thermocline, so definitely something to consider. Like I said, if y'all are interested in getting on the water, I would love to have you on a trip and showcase a variety of baits and why I pick each one in some of these scenarios we just went over. But I'll be out there the next couple weeks, so give me a call, check out my website. If you can't get on the water, definitely check out my fish ships down below. But hopefully a couple of those things to keep in mind will keep you productive on the water, even in these extremely hot temperatures. Definitely the best bite I have seen has been in the afternoon from that 3 to 7 period. They generate a little bit of water and those fish will set up a little bit higher and be a lot more aggressive. There is a good morning bite, but pretty much every day from about 9 to 11 to 12, it's a little bit of a lull and those fish are not too active. So if you are trying to go to Lanier in these next few weeks out there fun fishing, definitely either try first thing in the morning, or if you can do kind of an afternoon evening trip. Those have been the best times for me to kind of ignite and catch a lot of these really big schools and some of these big spots. So hopefully these couple tips helped y'all. Remember, have that access to deep water. Don't be scared to get a couple baits out, like a drop shot, a jig, underspin, things of that nature. Kind of reach these fish that aren't willing to come up, but also keep a couple of those traditional options like that fluke in the top water on the deck for when you do have those conditions arise where those fish are feeding. You can fire those baits in there as well. So definitely be a little bit versatile, pay attention to the thermocline, and really kind of study the map and pick your spots accordingly this time of year, and that'll definitely help you be a little more successful on the water. Hope y'all enjoyed it. We're going to get back out there. See y'all on the next one.